One Sunday early in 2009, we found ourselves without plans. Unscheduled time was rare. In addition to our office jobs, we were building our own business making wedding cakes, so our weekends were often filled with baking, decorating, deliveries, and client meetings.
What should we do?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
Definitely not debate about our plans. Because we had so little free time, we felt an admittedly contradictory pressure to fill it with entertaining or useful activities.
It was cold, but it was sunny, but cold. A country drive could be nice. And then I thought back to a few months before. A friend of ours had planned for a bunch of us to visit wineries in Fauquier County. At each, we had a tasting and then stayed to share a bottle while we picnicked with our friends in the vineyard. Mary and I had only been to one winery before, so it was novel and a lot of fun.
That sounded like a great way to spend our Sunday. We did a little research on the web, selected a few places just outside of Leesburg, and hopped into the car. We struck out at the first. It was still under construction, despite what the internet had told us.
But our second stop bore fruit. It was a slow day there because, unlike us, most people were preparing to watch the Super Bowl that night. So we had the full attention of the winemaker and his family, who were happy to tell us about their wine and their plans for the future.
It was our kind of afternoon. A road trip, albeit short, learning, and an absence of crowds. We took home a couple of bottles and a map that listed the addresses and hours of Virginia's 160 or so wineries. We used it to plan our visit the following weekend in the Percival area. When we got home, I sorted through our tasting notes and some brochures I picked up. Hey, look at this.
Mary handed me what looked like a bingo card. There was a grid that was divided into sections. Each corresponded to a region of Virginia.
Every section had some number of boxes representing visits to wineries. For every section you completed, you were entered into a raffle for a prize. I figured we could easily finish the section for Northern Virginia.
If you complete all 5 sections, you're entered into a raffle for a trip to France.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. While I think we're both good sports, we're considerate of other people's feelings and strict adherence of the rules, David and I are pretty competitive people. In any type of contest, if I'm participating, I am all in until the end. He plays to win. So I felt the need to be realistic about what we could accomplish.
When we went out next, we headed toward Luckett's. We stayed focused on Loudoun County, and by March, we'd completed the Northern Virginia section of the card.
We were learning a lot from our tastings. During each, we would swirl our glasses, smell the wine, and take small sips, paying attention to the wine's appearance, nose, taste, and mouthfeel. We took careful notes, employing our own 9-point rating system, so we could decide which, if any, bottles we wanted to take home, and then remember what we thought of them when we got them home.
We used terms like grassy, zippy,
Racy,
spice box,
leather,
forest floor,
foxy,
graphite,
and, most unfortunately, barnyard and cat pee.
We were also learning about the basics of vineyard management, winemaking, and winery operations. Some wineries had knowledgeable staff in their tasting rooms, while others stuck to a script.
Do you prefer red or white, dry or sweet?
How could we politely say we'd give anything a try? We just wanted it to be good.
The climate of Virginia is very similar to France.
Uh-huh.
This wine pairs well with pizza or barbecue.
That's code for it's not good. Avoid any wine where the recommended pairing is Hot Pockets. And know that, according to some wineries, just about anything goes well with pork tenderloin.
Ooh, you take a lot of notes, don't you?
Our notes drew interest from a lot of winery employees. Evidently, it's common for people to write nothing, or make smiley or frowny faces, or just circle the name of a wine they like. At least one winery owner was convinced we were reviewers from some newspaper or magazine. After a lengthy after-hours chat, she invited us to come back the next week for a private tour of the winery, or to ride her horses.
We were taking a lot of notes. Why not write a blog? We could write about our experiences, drinking local, and taking in the nearby sites and restaurants.
So our notes expanded to include the manner in which the tastings were conducted, directions if a winery was hard to find, and what the tasting room was like. And we made sure to take photos along the way.
We set up rules for ourselves. We keep the blog anonymous because, having worked in PR, I knew if we identified ourselves as bloggers, we'd get special treatment or freebies from the wineries.
We wanted to keep it real. And we followed the model of Super Size Me. We would taste every wine that was offered and take tours if they were offered to the public.
We were really enjoying our visits to the wineries. Why not try to complete the whole card and be entered for the trip to France?
No, that's not far enough. We will visit every winery in Virginia before 2009 ends.
That will be great for the blog.
We had this idea in mid-March, so we had fewer than 40 weeks to visit about 150 wineries. We'd be pressed to fit this in around our baking business and our other jobs.
Plus, the entry for the contest was due in October, so we had to complete those visits even sooner. But we were fortified by this new goal.
And we had to buckle down.
We needed to visit at least 3 wineries every time we went out, but ideally 5 or 6, meaning we had to prune our plans. We wouldn't have the time or tolerance for any wine beyond what was included in the tastings, and no time could be wasted on leisurely picnics. We needed to structure our visits to keep our hobby on schedule. Each day we'd go to a cluster of wineries that were near each other, near being relative. Around here that might mean a couple of miles, and in Shenandoah that could mean an hour. If we dallied anywhere, we might not make it to all of the stops on the itinerary before the wineries closed, and that could mean repeating a long drive.
We would start the day at the furthest stop, and then work our way back towards home to yield the maximum number of visits in a day. So there we were, getting up at 6 or 7 a.m. on the weekends, so we could arrive at a winery as they opened at 11 or noon, or even as early as 10. This was some serious dedication for something that started out as fun.
While other people might bring along cheese, grapes, and a picnic blanket, we packed our winery go bag with water bottles, lunch to eat in the car, pens and paper for our notes, our camera and an extra battery, and printed directions.
I used Google Maps to create our routes. Sometimes it would send us down dirt roads that were theoretically faster, or just get the destination wrong. When I was working on a route in Southern Virginia, instead of giving us directions to the winery, Google Maps sent us to a location just over the border in North Carolina for Alcoholics Anonymous.
It seemed Google knew before we did that we had a problem, but it wasn't alcohol addiction. Our world was topsy-turvy, and wine was consuming us.
We were still enjoying the visits, but the pace of our lives was kind of grueling.
And there was this Miley Cyrus song, The Climb, that was haunting us on the radio. Eventually, though, it seemed emblematic of our struggle. I gotta be strong. Just keep pushing on.
As we got closer to October and the contest deadline, we realized there were some problems with the rules. In some regions of the state, there weren't as many open wineries as there were spaces on the card. We contacted the contest organizer, who told us to do the best we could.
That's not how contests work.
Determined to follow the published rules, I contacted wineries that were still under construction and arranged for us to visit. We completed the contest card about a week before the wine festival, where we had to turn it in, since completing the card was incredibly time-consuming and almost impossible.
We did have to cajole people into letting us visit their not-yet-open wineries.
We had to have a leg up on the competition. We were ready to toast our victory and pack for France. We arrived at the wine festival in Alexandria about 2 hours before the drawing was scheduled and turned in our card. By now, we'd come to dislike wine festivals. Most wineries staff their festival booths with volunteers who may know little about the wines they're pouring.
And it was so crowded. We decided to just take a seat near the contest display and read. Finally, it was time for the drawing. but nothing happened. Time kept passing, and soon the festival was going to be closing. David went to find the contest organizer.
They're not doing the drawing today.
What?
They want to make sure that people who mailed in their entries had time to get them submitted.
No! The rules said when the drawing was. If the entries aren't in, they aren't in. I was pissed and suspicious. They were going from a public drawing to doing it in private at some unspecified point in the future.
It made us wonder if the organizers made impossible rules on purpose and never planned to give away the trip to France. Weeks passed and we didn't hear anything. We tried to contact the organizer again, but got no reply. Finally, they announced the name of the couple who won. We were crushed to hear it wasn't us.
How was that possible? Had this other couple done what we had to complete their contest card? And if no one else had submitted a completed card, didn't that automatically make ours the winning entry?
We felt like we had won that trip to France fair and square. We wanted proof that the winners had submitted a completed card or that they even existed.
Throughout the year, we'd heard from some winery owners that they didn't like the way the contest organizer did business. David and I had tried to reserve our judgment, but I was ready to label this as fraud.
We thought about suing them, but decided it'd be a hollow victory.
We still had about 20 more wineries to get to for our other goal, although maybe more because new ones were opening seemingly every day. It was hard to muster the enthusiasm, though. The unfairness of the contest left a bitter taste in our mouths.
Plus, we were exhausted and months behind on the blog. It was hard to find time to write the posts or edit our photos on top of everything else we were doing. We had to mature and make the conscious decision to let go of our outrage about how the contest had played out and our failure to visit all the wineries that year. As with wine, life is all about balance.
I should have paid closer attention to the lyrics of that Miley Cyrus song. Ain't about what's waiting on the other side, it's the climb. We'd met a lot of knowledgeable characters, tasted more than 1,000 Virginia wines, traveled all over the state together, and amassed quite a collection of wine that promised fun times sharing a bottle or a case with our friends in the future. Our glass was half full.